we talk about Gary Neville? I think we need to, don't we? A little bit. Look, I think it's really important to say at the very start of this video that as a football player of Man United, the guy was a legend, and we all admire and love him for that and what he did in the 600 plus appearances and all that. And look, it's quite obvious he loves Man United. It's quite obvious. However, he's not been the greatest to us as a pundit in recent times. And I understand United haven't been brilliant. I get that, right? And there's probably frustration there. And I think that's why I'm so disappointed with him at the minute. And I'd like to think some people, judging by Twitter and some people's opinions on him, it seems to be the case that quite a lot of people are frustrated with how he's acting at the moment. And I don't know what it is or who he's trying to cater to, but it seems a little bit bizarre to me. Considering his best mate is David Beckham, and considering his brother is Phil Neville, surely he knows firsthand that the abuse Man United players receive is on a level that probably only Boris Johnson deserves, to be honest. And it's quite hard to watch some of the things he says. And the recent example, an obvious example, being Marcus Rashford and Casemiro going over to America for a few days. It's really pissed me off to an extent that it's something's got to be addressed. Someone's got to say something to him, whether it's one of the pundits on the overlap or something, because when you're having to rely on Ian Wright to actually be the voice of reason, a former Arsenal player, an Arsenal legend, and I feel like I'm finding Ian Wright being the voice of reason quite a lot at the moment, especially when it comes to Gary Neville. But I've got the quote here, right? They went to Portland, and I'm asking the question based on professionalism. You're playing badly, the team are losing, you're 13th in the league, a new manager coming in. Would you choose that trip as a break to recharge your batteries? Because to me, that's not a recharging trip. It's not right, that. Yes, we are 13th in the league, right? I mean, as an outlier to that, we're also 4 points off third or fourth. So it's not really the end of the world. I'd also argue we'd still be 13th in the league, even if he didn't go to America or they didn't go to America. And there might be times in this video where I say he. I'm more referring to Rashford here because I don't think Casemiro's got the treatment that Rashford does, and probably for obvious reasons. But I don't understand how a trip with your family and friends isn't a recharging trip. It was also a club-sanctioned trip that he was allowed to go on. He also wasn't late back to training. So I don't understand why this has caused such a big fuss. And I'm starting to wonder, has this caused such a fuss because it was Marcus Rashford? Because quite honestly, the guy gets abuse on a level that I've not seen probably since David Beckham. And it bothers me because I think it's going to be one of them cases that one day Marcus Rashford potentially leaves and everyone goes, well, hang on a minute, why is he so amazing? And it's like, because you people have driven him out. You've had that talent at your disposal and you absolutely lambasted him for absolutely everything to the point where the player couldn't win. And you aren't gonna realise something so good that you've got until it's gone. And people need to realise that. I think something else that needs to be said is, yes, he's gone to America and I get there's a big time difference, but do you really think he was sat at the back of a Ryanair flight with barely any leg room and ordering Pringles and all that crap? He was going to be on a first class or a private jet with his feet up, really relaxed. So why has it caused such an issue? Has it caused such an issue because it's Marcus Rashford? Because I highly doubt that if it was any of the other players, I don't think this would be a story. I really don't. Do you know what I mean? He's not going to be packed. He's not going to be packed in like a tin of tuna on this. And I'm really feeling for Rashford. I understand he earns all this money and all that, but the treatment he gets, the bloke can't win, no matter what. He cannot win, no matter what. He puts pictures of himself training hard and working really hard and trying to get back to his best, and it's PR and a PR stunt. And it's always the same old names who label it as PR stunt, and it's people that just don't deserve the attention that they get, to be honest. And then he goes away and there's a couple of pictures posted of him at a basketball game, and he should be training hard. And it's like, well, hang on, when he does that, he's a PR merchant. When he doesn't do that, he should be training hard. The guy can't win, and it's pathetic at this point. You know, if he wants to go to an NBA game in his downtime, in his club-sanctioned downtime, why can't he? Like Ian Wright said, he'd do the exact same thing because it's his time to do what he wants with. If he'd have reported back to training late, fine, that's a completely different issue. But he didn't, and neither did Casemiro. So fair play to Ian Wright for sticking up for him, because quite frankly, he had to be the voice of reason on something that didn't even need saying. And that's why it's disappointing, because Gary Neville should know that these players get abused more than anything. They were part of it. They were part of a team that, yes, won everything, but they were also Man United players, and I feel like former United players have a duty to actually protect these Manchester United players to an extent. And yes, they're not playing well, and yes, we are 13th and all that, and I know we've been pretty rubbish for a little while now, but there's a line that we shouldn't cross, and yes, we can criticise them, but I just don't see how saying is it professional and should he have done it? There was just no need for it, and dedicating a big portion of an overlap show to it, I just don't think's needed. It's disappointing. And to be honest, it's not the first time, is it? Because then when you move on to things in the past with Gary Neville and the Bruno Fernandes thing, basically saying Bruno was begging to come off in the Liverpool game when he wasn't, and there was no apology for that. He was very clearly wrong in what he said on commentary. And instead of owning and taking responsibility and going, do you know what, Bruno, I didn't actually realise. It was probably frustration of losing to Liverpool. You clearly didn't ask to come off. I apologise, I got it wrong. That's all it would needed to have been said. But no, he pretended it never happened and he just moved on. And there's other United players that used to play for us as well who have criticised Bruno quite a lot. And it does worry me, and it does annoy me, because who else in that team's a captain? Because I'm sorry, there isn't anybody, and Bruno is the number one choice by a mile in that team, and I'll defend him to the hilt for that. You then add that the other week when we played, listen, he was basically begging for Martinez to be sent off. There's an element of non-biasness, and I completely understand as a pundit you have to be non-biased, and you have to be impartial. But I feel like sometimes Gary Neville goes to the level so far the opposite end that he almost comes across like he hates Manchester United. And look, let's be the voice of reason. We know that's not true. And I know we all get carried away on Twitter, and I know we say things. We know he's a massive Man United fan, which is why it makes it so bizarre when we listen to him on commentary sometimes. Because I do not understand why he says the things he says like that. Why is he practically begging for Martinez to be sent off? Why is he saying Bruno Fernandes is begging to come off in a massive loss to Liverpool when it's not true? Why is he saying Rashford and Casemiro are unprofessional? It's just things that don't need to be said. And the thing is, the outside world and everyone who isn't a United fan will be saying all this rubbish about Man United, and they'll all be abusing, they'll be criticising, they'll be going so far because they're not Man United fans. I'd expect people related and associated with Man United to do better. A lot better. And when Gary Neville, who he himself got pellets from all over the world because everyone hated Gary Neville, the Scousers being one of them, hated him, and he hated them too, to be fair, and rightly so. But he's associated with Man United and should know the crap that some of these players will get. And I feel like he sometimes may have a little bit of a duty of care to go and recognise that, because these players are going to get pellets, and they're going to get pelters, and they're going to get quite literally shit on sometimes because of the crap that they have to deal with online from certain segments of the fan base or fan base. I think sometimes former Man United players, as frustrated as they are, because I know they are, because as fans we're frustrated where we are at the moment, but with Ruben Amorim coming in, there's a little bit of an air of excitement. The players reported back to training on time. It was just stuff that didn't need to be said. And Gary Neville should know first and foremost the abuse and the rubbish that these players will get, because he, his brother, his family and his best mates would have got it as well. And I understand there was a Man United versus the world back then, so I feel like he needs to remember that. Gary Neville, I loved you as a player, and I sometimes love you as a pundit, and I sometimes I'll always try to back you, but right now, mate, you're really, really getting on my tits. I had to say it, and I had to speak about it, because it's becoming such an issue this week. And it might be because it's international break, and there's not really much going on, because there never is, because who cares about England? But I just wanted to say it, and I wanted to get it off my chest, and who better to than you lot, or all 82 of you who watched the last video, but I do appreciate it. Look, it's the start of the channel, it's the early days, early videos, I might mess up. the background isn't the best, but I will get stuff on this wall or that wall. Where am I? That wall. I do appreciate everyone that subscribed so far and watched. Genuinely, really do. Anyone that shared it, anyone that's liked it, anyone that's subscribed, I really appreciate it. I thought this was a video that I really wanted to make, to be honest, and I don't really like coming at older players because I love them all. But I just felt like something needed to be said because he's frustrating quite a few people at the minute, Gary Neville, and I love him. I genuinely love him. I think he's great, but some of his punditry recently, some of his comments, some of his commentary has been a little bit... He might not even know he's doing it. I get it, but it's just frustrating, I'll be honest. Videos coming thick and fast, more to come, and look, enjoy the journey, enjoy the channel, hit subscribe, make sure you like the videos, and I will see you again very, very soon. Cheers.